What if running your business didn't mean sacrificing your time, your health, or your weekends? Welcome to Own Your Time, where we trade hustle culture for mindful, sustainable success. I'm your host, Sarah Stewart, and around here, we're all about getting more time for what really matters. In today's episode, I'm going to be chatting about planning ahead for the school holidays and how to juggle work with parenting. So the school summer holidays are nearly upon us, and I think it's a topic of much interest to parents, especially new parents. How do we manage to do it all? So firstly, I don't think we can do it all. I used to believe that it was possible. I certainly gave it my very best shot, but as a single parent with no family nearby, it was tough. And I think there needs to be an acknowledgement that it can be difficult and it's okay to not do it all. Now, the season that I'm now in, where my children are teenagers, so my daughter just turned 14 and my son is 15, he'll be 16 towards the end of this summer. You know, it's somewhat easier than what it was when they were little, but they are at an age where they still need me, but they're also too old now to go to kids clubs. So for a while, probably between like 5 to 10, I was able to put them into kids clubs during the holidays and managed to continue working with relative ease. Then we had the COVID pandemic, where it was extremely difficult to homeschool whilst working. I did have the benefit that both kids at that time went to their dads half the week. So part of the time I was able to knuckle down and get work done. Now, at the time of recording this, we are sort of just out of the Easter holidays, but I do believe that we should be thinking now ahead to the school summer holidays because they will be here in a flash. And I think when this episode goes to air, there might be 7, maybe 8 weeks before the school summer holidays start. So I think the key to managing the holidays is to plan in advance. As a single parent, I need to understand what my childcare rota is for the holidays before I can start my planning. And this can hold me up. It's not always easy to get it agreed. And gosh, it used to frustrate me no end when I was unable to book holidays or holiday sports clubs in advance. But just have to let that go. Sometimes by the time I got my rota, the clubs were fully booked, which was not helpful. But somewhat out of my control, and I've been trying to get better at just, making my peace with it. And at least now with the kids being in their teens, I don't need to get clubs booked up. But whatever your situation, you're going to want to agree with your partner, co-parent, family members maybe, who's going to have the children and when. And this will hopefully then allow you to book time off work if you're employed, or block out your calendar if you're running your own business, book any holiday clubs, activities, and just get a sense of what time you might have available to work. And importantly, what is then achievable during this time. So I really like to have a visual schedule. I start out pretty high levels, zoomed right out. And I just have this 1-page look ahead. So I've got this wipeable monthly calendar that lives in my kitchen. And there's a box for each day of the month. And I find that really useful. And it can also be helpful to note in your calendar when the school holidays are ahead of time. So I tend to do that at the start of the school year, and I'll mark all the days off across the calendar year. If I'm going to be taking a holiday, I block that out as far in advance as possible too. So if you haven't done so already, take a look at the school term dates for the rest of the year, get them mapped into your own calendar. And so that then means that when I'm accepting meetings or projects in advance, I can factor in my availability around these holidays. I'm also really mindful when accepting new clients and the volume of work on my plate in the lead up to holiday season. So blocking out the time in advance is really helpful if you use tools that allow clients to book time directly into your calendar. So you want to make sure the time you are truly available is reflected as such in your schedule. And As a time management pro, there are lots of strategies that I could be suggesting to optimize the time that you do have when you're working. The best time for me to work right now is by getting up a few hours before the kids get up. They're teens, so they're more likely to sleep in during holidays and weekends and things. So I would do some focused work before moving into mum mode. For others, it might look like doing a couple of hours of work once your younger children have gone to bed, or maybe when they nap during the day. When my two were little, I was quite militant when it came to nap times, but what that allowed me to do was to get them into the same schedule so that, they both slept for 2 hours over lunch for a period of time, and that was bliss. It was so good just having it in alignment like that. So I would also say that planning ahead is a must. I think it's really important to know what the priority tasks are for that period of time, and then be realistic about what we can achieve in a day. It is really disheartening if you set out with a to-do list and you don't manage to complete it. So I also try and get ahead before the holidays. What can I schedule in advance? Blog posts, any social media stuff I'm doing, the podcasts, the newsletters, these can all sort of be created before the holidays. So you can ask yourself, what can I be doing now to take the pressure off when it comes to the summer? I also remember really vividly being whisked off to hospital in an ambulance to deliver my son, who had decided to arrive prematurely. So I gave birth when I was 33 weeks pregnant, and I was on the phone to my work in the back of the ambulance, giving them instructions for a really important task that was due that week. Now, that's obviously not a holiday by any means, and I'm not suggesting that having a baby is a holiday, but I hadn't sufficiently planned in advance for that. So, when we then switch our thinking to planning for holidays, you want to communicate your plans, let people know ahead of time what's happening, whether that is, people you work with, team members, clients, vendors, let people know that when you're going to be unavailable. So maybe there's an email autoresponder that you update. Maybe you're sending out email blasts to clients or popping a note into your email signature. And I'd also communicate with your kids too, let them know what the schedule is. So they cannot see, in my case, they can't see my beautiful color-coded, time-blocked Google Calendar. So for them, it's really helpful to create a visual planner as well. And if you do find yourself having to integrate work and childcare at the same time, thinking ahead about how you might, do this and facilitate that. So, thinking about delegation perhaps, are there tasks that could be delegated out to a colleague or a team member? And planning ahead means that you've got enough time, ahead of you to train people on the task that you want them to do in your absence. And then lastly, I would be thinking about, making sure that you don't forget to look after yourself. So we can get so caught up as parents looking after the needs of others that we neglect our own self-care and needs. So take this as a little reminder to be kind to yourself as well. So today's homework task, if you want one, is to think about getting ahead before the holidays. Take this as a prompt to start your planning now. And if you're listening to this at a different time of year, still take it as a prompt to think ahead for the holidays. You might want to pop this as an annual reminder into your calendar, maybe 4 to 6 weeks out before the big ones. So maybe Easter, summer, October and Christmas. You might want to put a reminder, a recurring calendar alert to say 4 to 6 weeks before those holiday times, to start thinking about what your plan is. So I hope that was helpful. Thank you for joining me on Own Your Time. And if you did enjoy today's episode, maybe you've been nodding along or taking some notes, I would love for you to leave a quick comment or review. Like, it really does help me get this show off the ground. And I would also love for you to share it with someone who might need a little bit more calm in their calendar. And until next time, bye for now.